Hello, hello. Happy Friday. It's Christina here from Chrysalis Kinesiology, here on another Friday morning with Women Inspiring Women. And today I'm super duper excited to have Sabina Jackson on. She's going to be jumping on soon and chatting to us about her soul path and her journey, which I'm really looking forward to. So yeah, whilst we're settling in, feel free to grab yourselves a cuppa, and I'll just let Sabina in.
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I haven't seen you in such a long time. It's
I know.
very strange to be doing it this way, but it's nice to see you.
Yeah, it's really good to see you too. Really good. It's lovely having you on. In fact, you know, when I was first told that I was going to be doing these lives by, you know, Spirit, you were definitely one of the first people that came to mind. So it's great to have you on.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So before we get started, we'll just wait for a few people to jump on.
It's not a catch up. Yep. Okay.
I know. I'm like,
so how you been? Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, do you want to give us an introduction to you, to people who might not know you or have seen you before?
Okay. So I am a kinesiologist and a spiritual mentor, and I was just thinking about, that, and I was thinking that really anything I say at this point in time is not necessarily set for a very long time, because I've kind of moved past thinking that I have to stay in a structure of any kind. Mm-hmm. And because I was thinking, well, how did I get here? And I always feel like I took the really long way around, because I've been a nurse, and then I studied psychology, and then I studied kinesiology, and I thought the reason why it feels like it took a long time to get here is because all of that time I didn't realize I could just be me. Mm. And so I had to just learn what I needed to learn to be confident enough to go in a session or in any kind of work I do with people, you know what, I don't even know what we're going to do today. We're just going to go with the flow. Mm. And so when I thought, well, yeah, I am a kinesiologist because I do muscle test in my sessions, but could you call me kinesiologist? Well, probably not. And, so I thought, really, you could ask me the same question next year and it could be totally different. I think the only set thing is I love dogs, and that is permanent for life, and everything else.
Look how serious your face just went then. Yeah. You're like, I love dogs.
I love dogs.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of dogs. I am too, actually. I think, you can't get past a good dog. So,
yeah. So, yes.
And someone's written same.
Love dogs.
That's nice. Someone's commented same. Yeah.
So really, I just sort of have found a path to sharing who I am, and that's kind of, and have made that my work.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what is your work? What do you do?
So I suppose, let me share with you how I've come to be here when I say I've taken the long way around. So I started off nursing, which that was all I ever wanted to be. If you ask me what I wanted to be from when I was a really young child, a nurse. It's all I ever wanted to be. And then I started nursing and thought, yeah, okay, this is not the thing that I imagined I was going to be doing. And it wasn't the work, it was the system. Love the work, system, toxic as hell. So I spent 19 years in that, trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Wow, 19 years.
19 years figuring out, how do I get out? And where do I go out to? And what do I want to be when I grow up? I knew I didn't want to just do a job. Like, I knew I didn't want to just quit, just go and do that. Like, just go and just to be able to leave it. It was like, no, I need to go to a thing that I actually want to go to. Mm-hmm. I suppose because I spent so much of that 19 years dragging my ass to work that I just didn't want to just change the building. Like I wanted to change the dragging aspect of the work. So what I noticed in nursing was a big part that I found really frustrating is that we kept ignoring the mind and the emotions. So you would literally look at someone in a bed and you would think they need psychological care, not because they're ill, but because it's such a big part of why they're lying in this bed. It's such a big part of how they're going to become well. It's, you know, we're ignoring all of the stuff they've got going on at home. We're ignoring all of their emotional stuff that's pinging around the room. And anytime doctors got a whiff of that, they say, oh, she's the crazy one in bed 4. Or it's psychosomatic. And they would say it's psychosomatic like that was a dirty word. And I would be thinking, but psychosomatic actually shows us how powerful the mind is and how much of an effect we have on the body. Not because we're weak, but because of how powerful we are. Not because we're crazy, but because that's how we're going to heal.
Yeah, and it's all connected, as we know, through holistic health and kinesiology. Everything's so connected. It's not just singled out.
And they not only ignore that, they actually kind of almost look down on it. So then I went and studied psychology. And I really like that. And I did CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, which really probably very much led into the kind of work I do now with the mind. But after studying that for 4.5 years, I thought, but now we're ignoring the body. And so we're still pretending they're separate.
Yeah.
So then I started studying kinesiology, which, as you know, is brilliant and fabulous and works really powerfully. But I think one of the things I loved most about it is from the minute I started studying it, I could literally just tailor it to what I wanted it to be.
Absolutely.
And we all do it so differently, don't we? Like, and that's, we all, and especially as you grow in it, and you know, you might start with the framework, and then you go, actually, this is where I want to go with it. So all of that time, I think what I was actually doing was living my life and going through my own, you know, lessons and pain and transformations. And that was actually the thing. Like, that was way more the training than anything I was doing on the outside in any building or, you know, learning anything. And when I became confident enough to go, oh, okay, because I also looked at kinesiology and thought, okay, so the thing missing here is the spiritual aspect.
Although there is the spiritual aspect in kinesiology as well. Maybe where you studied it wasn't included. I studied at a different college to you, so I think
you did. And I mean, I don't want to downplay where I studied because it was, but it wasn't. It was. Yeah, you're right. You're right. There is a big spiritual element to kinesiology, but not kind of. I was taught it in a more sort of structured kind of,
in a more 3D human framework way.
Yeah, a little bit. Not totally, but a little bit. And so once I brought all of that together, and the framework that I brought from that was the work that I'd done with A Course in Miracles, which just totally changed my life. Once I put that was kind of like the final, and then it was like, oh, okay, this is how I'm going to work with folks.
Like a whole package. Yeah.
It's a whole
I love
package.
that.
And it just bring the bigger picture element to everything you encounter. Let's just bring the bigger picture element to everything that you encounter. Once I started doing that, I felt like I was really in my flow.
And you moved from the suburbs of Melbourne to your beautiful home in the Dandenongs. And that's when you then introduced another sort of aspect to your work and started bringing people out to the forest.
It had kind of come, I think it sort of was the other way around. So I started the release and reclaim hikes.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was coming up to the Dandenongs to work here. I was coming up to Alinda to take people on hikes and release and reclaim. And I loved those. And every time I come up here, I'd come up here to hike because I love hiking. It just got harder and harder to go back. And so I feel like almost the work almost anchored me here in a sense before I fully came here. But once I did, yes, it became a much bigger element of my work. And I then made it like a regular aspect of my work to actually also do sessions out in nature and to bring in, that connection with earth and that connection with the elements. And then I suppose the element that helped me to bring into my work was the guided meditations and the really taking you to get your own answers.
Yeah.
Like the teaching whoever, I'm guiding through that connection is always there and you can access it yourself.
Amazing. Can you talk briefly about those services that you offer?
So interestingly, I started working fully online about 3-4 years ago. It's something I actually really enjoy doing. So my online sessions are called clarity sessions. And that's where I kind of bring together, the kinesiology and the spiritual mentoring. And the structure on the clarity sessions is to take a client through what is here for me, where is my power, what's my next step. So whatever they arrive with, we focus on what is here for me, like what are the patterns, what are the lessons, what's the gold, where is my power, which is something that we're really all good at forgetting, particularly when we're in something.
Yeah.
And then what's my next step based on now what my understanding is of where I am, rather than, the flailing, drowning aspect that we're often in when we're fully immersed in something. So that's the online stuff that I do. They're the sessions that I do.
And with that, do you do, you bring in counselling, obviously kinesiology and things like that as well?
I do. I use muscle testing to really guide the session and to really guide, okay, what does the client need? What's the thing here that we need to know? And then I don't know if you find this, but the minute I start muscle testing, it becomes very channeling psychic anyway. Yeah. Like the stuff just comes through that way, and then it'll come through in a lot of different ways. And then the spiritual mentoring part that I bring in is really that reminding people of how to have access to their power, like outside of sessions. The mentoring is really to be able to live what they're learning rather than just get relief in that hour and a half.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of go, I need another session or whatever. It's about kind of continuing on. And it's about making your mind an ally, which is very much the work that I learned from A Course in Miracles. Yeah. And then sorry.
I was going to say, I remember about 5 or 6 years ago, you and I went for a walk and we were talking about all sorts of things, A Course in Miracles and work and life. And you said about working online. And I was like, I don't understand how that works. Like, how do you, because I'm so kinesthetic. So I love touch and I love working with people, physically. And so that construct of working online just didn't fit in my psyche anyway. I couldn't find a pocket to fit it in. And, March 2020, they announced the lockdown, and 2 days later I opened my clinic online and I've never looked back. So, but it's definitely a process that you have to sort of get your head around and get your energy around, because it is so energetic, rather than the physical.
I think clients didn't really it's definitely when I started doing it, people thought I was mad. Clients were like, don't you like me anymore? Like, what's happened? It was like, no. Oh, and so you kind of had that group, and then you had some people who kind of felt like, that just blows my mind. I just do not understand how that can possibly work, and it cannot be as good as in person. And so the people that stayed, God bless them, trusted that I just wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't as effective. Like, you just would not do it if it was not as effective. Because ethically that would just be, you just would not
absolutely
that way. And so, and I definitely find it's in a sense, it's much more powerful. As opposed to, it lends itself to the way I work, because I work more in a mentoring sense. I work more in a, energetic sense than sort of physical. For me, I find the minute we start, it's like, vroom. Do you find that? It's like, vroom,
yeah, absolutely. I think energetically and mentally, it's definitely just as powerful. I guess the difference is when someone's lying on the table and you're putting crystals on them and they're smelling oils and you're touching points. That's a very sensory experience. So for people who need that touch, and I wrap them in a blanket and they feel really held. So people who need that environment really thrive more in the in-person sessions. But the online sessions, as you said, energetically you get the same shifts. It's just delivered in a different way. So,
and I wonder if I was preempting. I definitely feel very guided to have started that when I did, because then I became very physically unwell.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I was so physically unwell, I actually would not have been physically able to be in a room with someone, because it just would have been too much. And even when I caught up with people during a lot of that time, like friends, family, I would catch up with them outside. So it was interesting that my work was already outside and online, and I kind of feel like I was very much like guided to do that, to set it up for a time when I wouldn't really be able to work in person.
And so that sounds like a really big challenge that you've had to work through with your physical health.
I definitely, if I ever think, why did I do nursing, it was for that purpose, because just being chronically unwell is one of the most vulnerable things that you can go through, because particularly when you're relying on Western medicine, and that's where I felt so fortunate that I didn't, because they're just no good with it. They don't know how to deal with, it's just not set up for chronic illness. And so if you need a label, that can be really hard, because you often won't get one. I was more sort of, and I always encourage clients, don't go searching for a label. That's just a way to program you. That's just a way to tell you, like, this is what it is. This is the journey it's going to take. It's permanent or it's not permanent. You can heal it or you can't heal it. You're very much being programmed by whoever you're seeing. So, but it was very challenging and brilliant all at the same time, like all things are, really, aren't they? Like, even in it, it was just like, it was kind of like my 2020 come a bit early. Because it was just get rid of everything that you don't need. Literally get everything, get everyone, get everything out of your day-to-day life that is not helpful in this healing process.
And it's interesting, as you said that, I just saw you like releasing like a whole lot of heavy baggage off your shoulders and then just rising up like a hot air balloon, when you lift the sandbags off and it rises. I just got that image then when you were describing that. Do you feel like your energy is a lot lighter, in the last couple of years since you've done that process and really stuck to it?
Interestingly, as my physical energy was like rock bottom and I could barely like crawl from one end of the house to the other, I felt lighter in a way that I never have before. So my spirits were always high. My spirits probably became higher and higher as I just sort of surrendered to it. And I did keep saying to myself, it's like you're just going through an upgrade. I really felt that. I felt like whatever is working its way needs to just go and needs to just evolve into whatever it's going to be. Now, that was not me every day. I was not like a yogi.
Well, you are human.
Through the house. But I did manage often enough to stay in the energetic space of I didn't feel a victim to the process. And so energetically, in one way, I felt really quite high. And I think that really allowed me to do the work that you're afforded when physically you just go vroom, right? What have you got left? If you physically go vroom, all you have left to look at if you're willing to look at it, is the emotional, the spiritual, the energetic. That's what's going to be smacking you around the chops every day, all day.
Yeah. It's like your body went into lockdown in a sense, you know, like we've all done so much, you know, energetic and emotional and spiritual work. Well, not all, but, you know, I have, and I know many others have, because we were in lockdown, and in a similar way, your body just went into lockdown. And so you had to do the work internally.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the gifts that come from this time for all of us, like, you can see it. You can see, even like you say, the online work that makes us realize how connected we are when we're not physically in the same space.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have no doubt that my psychic abilities have improved due to the online work.
Oh, 100%.
Because you can't fill the space with chit chat. You don't fill the first 10 minutes with like, oh, just put your bag there. How was your drive? You have to find it okay. You know, all that stuff for someone to settle in.
You're just straight in.
It's straight in, and you've got nowhere to hide.
Well, that's what I find with the distance healing that I do. So I took it that extra level. I went from online to doing soul sessions where the people are not even online. I'm just dropping into their energy field and cleaning up a bit, doing some dusting and some cleaning and raising their vibes and chatting to some guides of theirs and passing on messages. Like when Spirit told me I had to do that, well, I'd done it in my personal life. They're like, okay, now you're going to bring it to your business. I'm like, are you sure? They're like, trust the process. I'm like, okay.
Do you know what I keep being told? I keep being told, stop muscle testing and stop using that as a crutch. You don't need it anymore. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? But are you sure?
Yeah, you can just get like an intuition and be like, oh, I'll just double check that.
It's so funny because the minute I do, because obviously I'm testing on myself all the time. And when I take people through connection walks out in nature, I'm still using kinesia. I'm still testing on myself, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm testing on myself all the time. And they're like, you know, you don't need to do that. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But let me just.
Yeah.
It's a way to connect, really.
Do you do it for yourself in your personal life as well? Do you muscle test? Like, is it better for me to have this for lunch or this? Shall I have this drink or that drink? Like, do you do it through the day?
I've never done that.
Yeah.
I've never done that. I wanted to learn to self-muscle test so quickly because it will come as no surprise to you that I sat down in the first class of kinesiology and I said, so when do we learn how to work on dogs? This will not come as a surprise to you. So I needed to learn to muscle test on myself really quickly so that I could, which my pooch at the time was really unwell with a skin condition. And I needed to learn how to do it for her. I wanted to learn how to do it for her. So I you know, practiced it a lot, but interestingly never on my own stuff because I don't think you have enough objectivity. But I would practice it on things like as I would walk down the street and I'd look in shops and I'd like point to things and see what the response, like what, just to feel a difference between a lock and an unlock. And so, yeah, I definitely use it. I use it to start the process of the connection, probably mostly, but for myself in my own life, I use cards.
Yeah.
I'm like shuffling those suckers like a good 3 times a day on a difficult day.
Wow. Well, you know, I'm about to bring out a set of oracle cards in the next few weeks, so I will have to send you a deck.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd love that.
Speaking of things that we make, tell us about your book.
Oh, okay. So the book,
it's amazing. It's fabulous. So just before you get into it, I'm just going to give you a little like, you know, boost and say it's amazing. I loved it. I've been lending it out to clients as well because it's just such a beautiful tool for self-awareness and you know, when you share your journey, it's so relatable on so many levels. So yeah, to anyone who's out there watching and hasn't got a copy, get yourself a copy of Sabina's book. It's great.
Oh, thank you. That was definitely my intention with it for sure. So this is the hardcover.
Yep.
And it has a different soft cover because, well, long story that I don't need to go into here, but it was meant to be different. The book the book is really what I do with clients over a long period of, like, you know, not over a long period, but, you know, over whatever period of time that we work together. It starts with me in my spare bed in my 20s and what kind of state I was in at that time. Like, it was the height of like, oh my God, I'm going to be stuck in nursing forever. Oh my God, my marriage is really feeling, you know, like there's so much pain here, and like I'm smart, I'm insightful, I've done all the things, I'm doing the work, I know what the law of attraction is. Like, how am I in such a shit position in my life?
Yeah.
And then takes you through kind of really how to make your mind your ally and how to ensure that the future is different from the past.
Yeah.
Because I realized that until I change my mind, which is why it's called Set the Tone, nothing can change until you do. I realized that even though I felt like I was the only one changing, I felt like surely I was definitely the smartest in most of my relationships. I was the most,
and probably all your classes too. Should we just add that in as well?
I was definitely the most insightful person I knew. So why was I living such a shit show?
Yeah.
Because I was the one that did need to completely, I needed to change the fact that I expected things to stay the same. And I suppose that's the crux of my work with anybody. It's that it's teaching them about ego and how ego gets programmed, and then ego clouds the filters through which we see life.
Yeah.
And when
absolutely.
ego expects to be proven right, it will ensure that it is. It will hunt high and low to find the tiniest speck of I'm right, even in a whole entire room full of, no, look, here's the change that you're seeking. It will go, yeah, but look, here's this crumb that is still the same.
Yeah.
And so that's the process that the book takes people through, and that's the process I needed to go through. And really, I mean, my life now is, you know, it's not about your life becoming like a bed of roses. It's about learning how to navigate through stuff and not forgetting your power, which is something I did really well. Like, I was like a master at victimhood, really.
Yeah,
which is ironic because I always recognized other people's power. I always recognized it. I recognized it in my mum, even while we were like living in a domestic violence like childhood. I recognized it in clients. I recognized it in patients. I always recognized people's power, but I very rarely remembered my own. And I suppose that takes me back to where I started when I said that I actually realized what I was living through is what I needed before I could do this work. Because if I didn't know what it felt like to feel like you haven't got any power, how can I help somebody to get out of that place?
100%.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's the thing, like, I think, you know, probably the same for you. I see a lot of clients and they're like at a low in their life, or at a crossroads, or dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call it. And they're like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I'm going. And not realizing that everything that has come before is actually stepping stones, and they're not on the path. They're on the path. It's just a shit part of the path, right? Like, even when you're hiking and you're going up like a really steep climb, it's like, fuck, this is hard. Excuse my language. I forgot that for people watching.
It's because you're with me. Do not follow me if you don't like swearing.
You know, but that's the thing, like, you know, and even for myself, and I'm sure others it's taken me to the brink of my absolute, you know, limits, and still knowing ego's going, you know, this is shit, and knowing this is for a purpose. It's okay. Just keep crawling your way through, you know. You just got to know that it's part of the journey. It's not going to be like magically all amazing because suddenly you're spiritual. It's actually probably going to be harder in a way.
For sure. Why do you think so many people go, I wish I could go back to actually not being aware of stuff?
Yeah.
Because
I feel like that sometimes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's definitely, in a sense, there's an ease there. But in another sense, it's like, do you want to stay in grade 3 for the rest of your life? I mean, as frightening as high school seemed when we were in grade 6, once we got the hang of it, it was definitely better than primary school.
For sure.
So, you know,
and things really, can change in an instant. Energy shifts in an instant. You know, one minute you're feeling like the world is ending and everything's terrible, and you have a shift because you've done the work, and then suddenly you pop out the other side, you go, oh, okay, no, everything's fine. I'm through it. It's okay. Don't panic.
And so what happens with that is that we get a sense of like, I've just realized I'm a little bit beetrooty, but that's because the ring light is really like, it's so dark here. Is it dark where you? It's like literally like
pissing with rain.
Like the ring light. What happens is we achieve something and we get this massive high. We get this massive sense of like, wow, look what I just did, right? And we sit in that, we feel it for like a little while, and then ego goes, oh, we can't be having that. We can't be having too overinflated sense of ourselves. I better just remind her of the time when she couldn't do it. Or I better just remind her of the next problem that she has to face next week. Like, okay, you know, you did this thing, okay, but remember you've got that thing next week that you may not do as well on. Because it's the thing not coping. Ego is actually the thing in our mind that's not coping, and we think it's us. And that's the biggest disservice we can ever do to ourselves, because we are not that, you know, and it's the thing struggling up the mountain. We really are the things that are woohooing up the mountain because we actually love the climb. We love what it teaches us about ourselves. We love that we get to see where our, you know, where we shine.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I mean, it even happened to me yesterday. Like, I was having, you know, a really good day, and then my brain went, but wait, what about this? I'm like, stop trying to find things to worry about. Can we just enjoy this for a minute? Honestly. But when you're aware of it, of course, then you can talk to ego, right?
Talk to it, definitely. You want to learn to parent it. You want to learn. So what I often say is you need to learn to be the adult in the room.
Yeah, for sure.
You need to learn to be the adult in the room. And like for most of us, we don't even realize that it's ego. We think it's our own self, or worse yet, we think it's intuition. And so we need to, you know, we need to learn to separate ourselves out from that and go, no, I'll be the adult in the room. And when my fear and my, you know, sort of least evolved part of myself, which is ego, that's running in all of our minds, gets frightened, plays up, needs to be heard, I will tend to it, but maybe not right at that time. Like if a toddler's having a tantrum at the supermarket, you may well just pick the toddler up, put it in the back of the car and drive home. You're not going to, in the supermarket, go, are you all right, sweetie? What's the matter? It's okay. Let's go get your blankie. Let's have, you know, you're not going to do it right then and there. And it's the same with ego. Some days you need to say to ego, okay, listen, we're just doing this, pipe down. And other times then, but see, people do that, but then they never allow the hearing it and the listening to it and the actually, what can you teach me about why I found this so frightening?
Yeah. So, you know, on that note, I did a beautiful meditation the other day, a couple of weeks ago. I was having a really hard time. And so I went into meditation and I called in, you know, my inner child. I think she was probably about 4. She's like, I'm scared. I gave her a cuddle. And then I called in my 16-year-old who was just pissed off and smoking and swearing blindly. So I heard her out. And then I recognized that maybe part of me needed some help too. So I called in an older version of myself from the future. Yeah. And asked for reassurance from her. It was such a really empowering and beautiful meditation, because on different levels of myself, I just felt all of this release, and I felt much more cohesive inside, congruent, you know, inside myself. It was very powerful.
Because look how beautifully you held the space for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and there's always so much gold in fear. There's always so much gold in the pain and in the stuff. And it's that voice can teach you so much. Like, it can become actually a really big, beautiful part of our whole guidance system.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And you can actually, in a way, befriend it and be like, oh, hey, you go. Welcome back. Okay, well, so let's hear you out. What have you got to say?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I made it my ally. I really made it my ally. My whole mind is my ally. It works for me all the time.
Yeah.
It's not in a, like, it's only a positive space, but when the stuff comes in, I don't freak out about it. I don't necessarily deal with it right in that moment, but it knows it'll be heard, and so it only says it once. It doesn't get as stuck as it used to when it felt like she's not listening, I'm not being heard. When your fear does not feel heard, it will take over your whole entire life.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and your dreams. Like nightmares.
And your relationships.
Yeah,
and
everything.
Flow. Whole planet.
Yeah.
As we currently see.
I know. So before we end up, it's been so great to chat to you today. Do you have any
I'm
last...
so excited about your cards.
Yeah, I know, me too. Do you have any last thoughts or words of wisdom for, how to sort of, empower yourself, live in your truth, be you, just to wrap it up, what would be your words of wisdom to whoever's listening today?
I think definitely something I want to remind people of as we navigate this time, and we all are finding, like, our collective challenge at this point in time is really separating ourselves out from the noise. And I would highly recommend having time off every now and again off social media.
Yep.
And sitting with your own sense of the now. And also start, when you do maybe watch videos and things, stay away from the comment section that other people are commenting about that video, because I've just had a reminder myself very powerfully recently how much it clouds the waters. And so I think we're in a collective process of clearing the filters and seeing clearly, and all of that can really be clouded by the noise.
Absolutely.
And so as much as it's great to go out and to get guidance and to, gather, you need to bring it in, and then you sit with it and you run it through your own system and you decide what it means.
Yeah. I know you did a great video a while back about being the receiver, being discerning about what you receive. That was fantastic. That was very, very powerful message there. So yeah, is that on your Instagram as well, or was that YouTube?
They are all on my Instagram, and pretty much everything's on YouTube as well. So it's just Sabina Jackson Conscious Living on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
And I did pick a card before I started this for myself, but it tested up
Yep.
like, no, it's a message for everybody.
Great. What is it?
Like a closing message. It's from the Rebecca Campbell deck, Work Your Light. And it's you're already doing it. Stop overthinking. Keep facing your true north.
Yeah.
So that was the message to all of us. We're already doing it. Stop overthinking. Keep facing true north. And really, that's exactly what we were saying. Like, be discerning. Clear the filters. Face your true north. What do I want here? What is best for me? And just really staying in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sabina.
Oh,
it's been
pleasure.
So wonderful
Thank
to
you.
chat to you. And thanks to everyone who jumped on to watch, and all these lovely hearts. I'm loving all the hearts popping up on the side. And I will post this video to my page. It will be there for a week, and then it will just be in my IGTV. So for anyone who wants to watch it through. Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
All right. Well, have a beautiful day. Lovely.
I appreciate it.
And big love to you. And thanks for jumping on.
Thank you.
Bye.